This is the operational description for a cooling system. You already have heard what the parts are, and now we're going to use this diagram to show you how the heating cycle and the cooling cycle works. So we're going to start with the heating cycle. The heating cycle starts with the coolant in the water pump, and this is the water pump right here. So we're going to go from the water pump and pretend you're a particle of coolant, and that coolant is going to go down through around the water jackets. As it's going through the water jackets, it's taking the heat away from the cylinders because there's fire in the cylinders, and then it comes back through the intake manifold and up to this place right here, and this is the thermostat right there. Now the thermostat on the heating cycle is closed, and because the thermostat in the heating cycle is closed, the coolant cannot go up through the upper rad hose and into the radiator. It goes down through the bypass hose back into the water pump, which sends it back to the water jackets, through the bypass hose, and it's heating up. The coolant is heating up until it reaches normal operating temperature. So that's the heating cycle. So we're just going to draw here, and we're going to say the heating cycle is water pump, and then it goes around to the water jackets. From the water jackets, it goes to the bypass hose, and then back to the water pump. So that's the heating cycle. The cooling cycle operates a little bit differently. It takes a similar path to the heating cycle at the start, and then it changes. So we're going to start in the water pump. From the water pump, the coolant goes through the water jackets, picking up the heat from the cylinders. Now this water, or the coolant I guess, is getting warm now, and it's hot enough that the thermostat right here opens up. So then coolant flows up through the upper rad hose into the radiator, gets to the top of the radiator, and it goes down all of these flat tubes in the radiator. As the coolant is going down, air is being sucked into through the radiator by this fan right here in this area, because this is spinning. Air gets sucked in with the fan, and you're driving down the road and it's pushing air in through the radiator. As the air goes through the radiator, it takes the heat away from the tubes, which takes the heat away from the coolant. Therefore the coolant is getting cooler and cooler and cooler as it gets down to the bottom of the radiator. So if you would feel the air in this area, it would feel cool. But if you put your hand over in this area over here, and the fan is sucking the air through the radiator, the air on this side is hot because it's taking the heat from the fins, which takes it from the coolant itself. So once the coolant gets down to the bottom, then the coolant goes back up the lower rad hose, back to the water pump, and through the water jackets, thermostat, upper rad hose, cools through the radiator, and then back again through the lower rad hose back to the water pump. Therefore our cooling cycle looks like this. Water pump goes to the water jackets, goes to the thermostat, from the thermostat, upper rad hose, from the upper rad hose goes to the radiator, from the radiator goes to the lower rad hose, and then back to the water pump. And it cycles all the way around until the coolant is cool enough, and then it goes through the heating cycle again. So as you're driving and the engine is running, it's constantly going through heating, switching back to cooling, back to heating, to make sure you maintain normal operating temperature.